Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, Arthur, 10th Man, Refracted Curvature, Arwin, and somebody underneath Arwin who's joining while I'm doing my intro, and I can't see. Somebody else who's not going to get named thanks to Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello out there, everybody.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good morning.
Hello. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
We're still waiting for an answer from the ball side, but no, impossible.
Well, only with curved geometry.
What? Curved geometry? I mean, geometry is geometry. There might be curves in geometry, but we're asking for elevation angle measurements from curved baselines.
Well, you need curved geometry, and curved geometry is not geometry, it's curved geometry.
Okay, whatever. Any evidence that you can get that elevation angle measurement that's used throughout navigation and mapping?
Not from a curved surface.
Except in curved geometry, where you can think of it as the flat
does
plane
your
as a curved, right?
Does that have a 90 degree in that curved geometry?
Not literally.
Okay, thank you.
And if you can't get it from the curved surface and they do celestial navigation, where do they claim that we're getting it from?
From a horizontal surface, which they cannot do from the surface of their dingleberry Earth, so they have to go to the center, the equatorial plane. So even in their own books, it's coming from an equatorial plane, which means it's never originating from a curved surface, which it needs to, but it's not, because it's impossible.
It's not a claim either, it's a measurement. 40 people watching already. Wow, we've only just started. Woohoo! Please share the show. If you just got here, you've obviously been waiting and you're keen. But yeah, just share the show. I'm sure we'll get over 100 people, given there's enough people watching straight away. Okay, any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge then? Horizon formerly known as Earth curve?
Well, it needs to be geometric, but it's not. They keep referring to refraction, so ball game over. Welcome to Flat Earth.
What we're covering today, 10th? I've just had a look at Master B and there's nothing there.
No, I'm actually getting it ready to go there. It's an interesting, it's an older find that I'm putting together for you. So it's Antony Flew, the noted British atheist, debating Gary Habermas on the Bible, God, the scriptures.
Wrong show.
Earth.
Wrong show.
Hang on. No, listen. He brings in Copernicus as the reason why he's an atheist. And then later, something happens in the second video where Antony Flew is no longer an atheist because of DNA. But it's the words he uses, because the whole purpose of them trashing the Bible, the Genesis account of creation, that's, when I say Bible, I'm talking about the creation story, because it is about our show. It's about the Copernican model, which came in to say, no, the Earth is not the center of the universe. We're orbiting, we're doing this, we're flying around. But the two work hand in hand to show, why would this atheist be an atheist? Because he thought the Copernicus model destroyed the creation story. But then later, because he saw the validity of DNA, all of a sudden say, no, I believe there is a creator. Now, he's not necessarily saying he believes in the creator that's in the Bible, but he's no longer an atheist. But I find it quite nice that it made a change in his life.
Okay, I mean, given that I linked acoustics to Flat Earth yesterday, I don't think I've got any room to object, have I?
Well, it's a running theme anyway between the biblical story of creation, where we use the first law of thermodynamics. You know, there has to be a creator for everything, and then them coming in with Big Bang, evolution, and Copernican, and saying no, there doesn't, and then all of a sudden he changes because of DNA. So there has to be a creator for DNA, but he didn't worry about that when he had his view about creation. Is my point.
What's all this second guessing about 10's videos? Don't you trust them? Play the video.
You can't be too compliant, Neil. You've got to keep people frosty. Treat them mean, keep them keen. You know the score.
No,
Okay.
I mean, you can't help but have some things cross over, but this is a show on physics and geometries, and that's the way I like it.
I just want to run something by the audience on behalf of John. Feel free to stop me if you want to do this, John. Refractive curvature. I'm just going to run something by the audience, and whether or not it puts a light bulb over anybody's head, we'll find out from the comment section, right? You're just going to hear our rendition of the Black Swan with a subtle alteration. If Earth was a sphere with a circumference of 24,901 miles, then every distance to the physical geometric horizon could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Distance to the horizon in the Black Swan is beyond 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere with a circumference of 24,901 miles, and the horizon is not Earth curve.
Well, I was going to say the physical obstruction, and because they claim that the horizon is a physical obstruction. So it's something about that connection in their mind, and saying it another way maybe to help them.
So it's not just the circumference bit that you want me to alter subtly. It's the distance to the physical obstruction can be no more than.
Yeah.
Just in the pre-show, John was saying, you know, there's sometimes you'll phrase something to somebody and they may not get it. Now, immediately my reaction was the reason the people who are watching us in that regard aren't getting the Black Swan is not because of their comprehension skills when it comes to phraseology, but that's a different issue. However, there may be people who are listening that aren't here to simply say, no, you're wrong, you don't understand, that just want to understand it and haven't yet, for whatever reason, and a repackaging of the same exact argument, just with subtly different words. And I can completely agree with you. When QE was essentially educating me in this subject, one of the things I'd say to him was, okay, say the exact same thing again, but just slightly different words, please. You know, in other words, give it me again, but use similes.
So is John asking you to... Is he asking us to dumb it down, maybe?
No, he's not asking us to dumb it down. He's asking us to just slightly rephrase it, because sometimes that's all it takes for somebody to have the penny drop. Instead of distance to horizon, well, the distance to the physical obstruction, or distance to however you want to phrase it differently, so that it just makes someone's light bulb appear over there. You know what I mean? Get it?
So why can't you say physical obstruction of the horizon?
Say whatever you like, Neil. The point is that if we keep it rigid in terms of the phrasing, as long as the modus tollens stands true, don't alter the statement in the logical consistency, because that's like a sin then, as opposed to helpful. You know what I mean? So don't do it if you don't know what you're doing, because it might be that your subtle alteration literally changes the consistency of the logic. Well, don't let that happen. But beyond that,
Nathan,
go on.
Yeah, you've done this before, and I like it. I like what John is trying to do here. You need like a preamble before you do the Black Swan with people, because there were things based on the horizon that the globetrotters use that is in the Black Swan, which is the horizon. So the whole point is, how did they get Earth's globular shape using the horizon? Well, they looked at the horizon and Al-Biruni. So we tell the Al-Biruni story. Okay, well, if it's refracted, and he didn't know anything about refraction, so he didn't account for it. So we know that too. So when you tell the story, oh, okay, so they use the horizon to predict we live on the globe because it's an assumption. That's right. But if the horizon is changing all the time, then it's no longer physical. Do you understand that?
Okay,
Because then one day the
give it a
globe
bash
would be
then.
bigger.
So you're saying it needs a preamble to the effect of the general worldview is that the horizon is a hill getting in the way of stuff called Earth curve.
Yep.
And with that in mind, there's maths for the hill getting in your way. It puts it at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That hill getting in the way of stuff called Earth curve. However, we can show... Just destroy this, Neil. Go ahead. It's not like I'm doing it on the fly and really concentrating or anything.
Sorry, I thought you stopped. Go ahead.
Yeah,
finish.
what,
I
in the
thought you
middle of
stopped.
the
Sorry.
sentence, in the middle of the modus tollens? Obviously, the middle of the modus tollens is where I'm going to be stopping. Yes, that's right, Neil. Go ahead. Bloody hellfire. 60,
I was just going
at
to
least there's
say,
more than 60 watching.
hasn't it been done already with QE's new housekeeping question? Is there any evidence that you can have a horizon on a sphere Earth?
I don't actually understand
And
that
the
argument. I'm
story.
yet to watch QE's Tuesday show. And he refused to tell me beforehand. Slope-a-dope. I get the name.
Well, let's try that again, Nathan. So the preamble is...
People think that there's a physical obstruction to your view at the horizon called Earth curve. They think that it gets in the way of boats and buildings, and that it is getting in the way at the rate of 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Here it is in your maths. But if that was the case, then the horizon couldn't be any further than the maths says it is when claimed to be a physical hill in the way. And we've got photos that show the hill isn't in the way. It's behind the stuff it's supposed to be blocking. Therefore, it ain't a hill getting in the way, based on the sphere geometry at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet in your Earth curve maths. That's the exact same argument, just, as Neil would put it, dumbed down a bit.
Yeah, and this is what gets... Because in their mind, meaning when I've had conversations with people who really are trying to understand why I have my position and why I disagree with theirs, is just that. It's like, what is that obstruction? It's supposed to be blocking the bottoms of boats and buildings. So something blocking something would have to be physical. It would have to be an obstruction, unless you want to relabel it a refraction, a mirage, or an optical effect. Would you agree? Yes. Okay, great. So, well, go on, John.
I feel like people think I'm trying to replace the black swan.
He just wants the credit. He's just trying to steal the credit.
No, I'm not.
That's not what we think.
I
You
wasn't
know, you're
even
trying to
thinking
get
that.
people to-
I was. It's
Trying to
outrageous.
get people to understand it.
If
No,
he
you're doing what I'm
rephrases it,
doing.
suddenly it becomes his, her, like the Mexican equivalent of the black swan. It's a bloody outrage.
I'm doing what you're doing, John. I'm doing a preamble so they can understand the black swan as stated by QE and the modus tollens the way we understand it. I mean, we get it because we get it. It's simple. You got to have something physical blocking if it's going to be a sphere with a radius of 3959 at a given point to match that claim. But since we know it's all an assumption, whether you use Eratosthenes, who needed a flat plane to get the shadow, which we know that all roads lead to flat Earth. Let's just put it that way.
Quite the contrary, though. We are attempting to empower the audience when it comes to debate from the flat Earth perspective, and indeed from the globe Earth perspective. We know your arguments better than you do now. We know the heliocentric model and where it originates better than you. So if you want an advanced heliocentric knowledge, this is the place to find that as well. How arrogant.
Exactly.
But true.
Exactly. So anyway, rounding it off, once they commit, see, I like to get people to commit to their position first. You know, if I'm debating someone who believes we live on the globe, and I'd say, so the obstruction of the bottom of boats and buildings, is that proof of a globe? Well, I want them to tell me yes. Because you would have to. And so on the minute they say yes, they're done.
As long as you appreciate the form of the logical consistency that is the black swan, you can, and we encourage you to, take ownership of the argument. Now, if your repackaging of it weakens it in some way, then obviously that's not going to get any kudos. But if you're repackaging it because you want to Maybe it is because you want to take ownership of it and call it your own. Good. If that's what you've got to do that, then good. I encourage you to do that. Now, if it's because you just a miser and you don't want to give QE credit, good, fine, no worries. It's not necessary to give QE credit for an argument that you win because you've understood it when it originated with QE. It's the same exact principle.
Wait a minute. Who's even taking it to that point? QE came out with the Black Swan, with the molar stolons.
We jokingly said that, or I did, that John, that's refracted curvature, was attempting to paraphrase it so that it became his. And I was like, yeah, he's trying to steal credit, steal that. No. I'm trying to flip that on its head and say that sarcasm was there for this reason. Because quite to the contrary, I encourage the opposite. When I'm arguing with Jaron to my detriment when I'm being called a scammer, the upside to it, the hope, is that he will take arguments and own them so that he wins with them. So that he, as an ambassador for Flat Earth, represents me better than he currently does. So it's not that I want him to say Nathan's scientific method, like QE gets accused of. Now, while that might be flattering sometimes, and we all laugh about it when people call the scientific method quantum erasers, that isn't the aim. The aim is that you understand it so that you can embrace it and then take ownership of it, at which point you can win with it. But whether or not you choose to give credit is irrelevant. Now, does it change that we understand implicitly that the argument originated with QE? No. Does it change implicitly that the original observation and namesake of the argument came from BLMSB 69? No. None of those things change. But you understanding it to the point where you could paraphrase it into a slightly subtly different phraseology so that somebody who hasn't got it up until now might just get it where they hadn't before, then I absolutely encourage people to do that and smile and smirk and take the win when you get it. Don't say, oh, well, I have to pass this win on to Quantum Eraser because it's his argument. No. Just bask in the glory if you won with it because you understood it to the point where you could put it into effect. These are merely tools fashioned by Quantum Eraser. But once you pick up that sword, it becomes yours.
Well, when they say that X is below sea level, physical geometric horizon, which you could only see if there was no atmosphere, they're done. How did they ever measure Earth to get the radius?
70 plus people watching now. Much better viewing figures today than yesterday. It was bloody awful for some reason. Nevertheless, thank you very much for all of you. Smash that share button. Please share the show if you've not done so already. We will get onto a video that was
you're not gonna comment on No Atmo Day.
What is it? No Atmo Day? Which one do you want? Antony flu, right?
Well, when you said that we know their arguments better than they do, we can set traps for them because they have a measurement on a No Atmo Day. When was that ever done?
It wasn't, but my point in saying that was to lead on. I'm not decrying what you've just said, but I'm saying the reason I dropped that in is to say that when you come here to gain a knowledge of the arguments that we put down and talk about and discuss and refine here, it isn't so that we can achieve credit. It's not some, it's not us reaching out so that you'll spread the good word. That you can do when I call you to action to share the show. But as for someone who comes here saying, for the sake of argument, one of the catchphrases, literally one of the terms that's come directly from the show, for example, you're going to need a flat earth for that. Well, then, again, no credit is required if you're saying it because you've just made a damn good argument that someone can't overcome, or more likely, if it was in line with the reason we use it, because you've taken a little shortcut and pointed out how their globe argument required a flat earth in the first instance. You're going to need a flat earth for that, being the analogy, because you're on a highway in a Lamborghini, cutting through all the dross with the guy underneath you in a Yugo picking his way through the weeds, trying to argue within the heliocentric begging the question fallacy, when the entire premise for both sides of the argument originated in a flat earth measurement. That identification in the argument is where we would say you're going to need a flat earth for that. But were someone else to do it, take a shortcut and get you straight to the flat plane requirement, do you have to credit refracted curvature? Do you have to give John credit? No. Bask in the glory. You own that argument now. If someone asks you, where'd you get the sword? I'm nearly done. If someone asks you, where'd you get the sword? That's a bloody good argument. Yeah, you might want to credit the person that you originally got it from. Yeah, I got this argument from QE. I was watching Flat Earth Debate. Heard them take someone's head off with it and Thought, I'll have that. I say it overtly when I hear a good argument or a good catchphrase. I'm having that. Copyright Nathan Oakley. It sounds like a joke, but it's not. It's me declaring, yeah, I'm going to take ownership of that. That's awesome. So much so I want it. Imitation is the highest form of flattery. I'm done. I'm done.
That's why I don't understand what this is taking credit, because I always thought that once you are the one bringing the argument to someone else, it becomes yours. So I don't understand this, why taking this one's credit or taking that one's credit. It's yours now.
Well, strictly it was Brian's a couple of weeks before that, but you know, yeah, your point stands.
Okay, so I get it. Before you start the review video, you had it on the wrong one. If that's the one I saw, you need to go to the first one at the 1 and 7 minute mark, and I show you where to end it. That'd be the first part. So anyway, so I came in late on the show. So you're talking about credit, where I'm still using it as an argument, but I get what you're saying now.
Okay, do you want to give a preamble to this video? This is Jesus' resurrection true? Antony flew, and Gary, is it you'll have to say that.
Habermas, I believe.
Habermas at Cal Poly. And the videographer's channel in this instance is the Veritas Forum. Is that right?
But this is more of an educational video just for us. It's not necessary you have to respond to this video. I ran across this a while back ago, a real long time ago. And I remember getting upset that Antony Flew chose to be an atheist based on the Copernican lie. And so he talks about God, the Bible, and how would the creator tell one story, and then we find out through science Copernicus is the true science. And so he, why should he believe God in the Bible? And so to me, it was like a clarion call for me to say, you know what, I'm tired of people misrepresenting creation, that you need a creator, and then this Copernican lie, which is I want to take apart, of the Earth not being the center of the universe anymore. So this is where the first video is what Antony Flew is using to say, see, this is why I don't believe the creation story and that there's a creator. Because why would he tell those people in the Bible one thing, and then we find out that Copernicus was right? And then later, the second video is the same person, Antony Flew, who saw the evidence from DNA, the complexity part, okay, as you'll see. And he said, you know what? There has to be a creator. So the whole point is, if he had realized the Copernican theory was a lie, he would have had reached this point earlier.
Okay, so the link to the Veritas Forum is going to be going, or it is going by, you can see it in the chat now. But I just want to make a quick note. It's on a complete side subject, so I'm sorry to segue. But Iron FE, about 20 minutes ago, said to me in the chat, at Nathan Oakley 1980, remove heart from the live stream chat. It can be turned off. The setting, blah, 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 blah. Live reactions, thank you. Right? Well, does anybody remember a viewer called Shroominati? Anybody remember Shroomy? God.
I do.
Oh, why didn't you say yes then? Bloody hell. 90 people watching, just say yes. Right. What Shroomy used to do in the live stream chats, right, was he'd spam smiley faces or 666, 999, things like that, right? Just over and over and over again. Because some people have got OCD and they need to do that. They need to have something, to press over and over again. Well, YouTube have figured that out and gone, if that's what you want, if that's what you need, then we will give it you. And you can see here, there's a reactions tab, right? So you click on a heart and a bazillion hearts go by in the chat, right? It doesn't disturb anybody. It lets that particular viewer fulfill their need that they want from the chat. I think it's absolutely genius. So as soon as he said it, the reason I brought up Iron FE was because there was a moderate amount of reactions going on. The moment he said that, it has not stopped since. I just thought I'd make a note of it because it amused me. Nothing else, totally non sequitur to what we were just about to cover. There's a link going by to that, which is far more important, in the live stream chat show. Please let them know, as always, regardless of their connection to this original video or not, that Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and let them know we responded to this video regardless of its origins. So yes, please let them know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and I may as well highlight the reason we do that. Sharing the algorithmic love with them, giving them comments, giving them likes, and all the rest of it, so that hopefully the vain hope is that one day one of these videographers will actually respond and put a link to our video, because we get absolutely no YouTube algorithmic love whatsoever, and the only way we do is by my very gracious audience going out and sharing the show. Please share the show if you've not done so already. Warm welcome, as we're edging up to 100 people watching. Great. Yeah, that's how we get our shares. That's how people get to 100 viewers in these sorts of shows. So hopefully that would have a positive effect for us, were they to do the same as we are doing now when you go to their video, to let them know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. There you go. There's my preamble over. We will now actually get into this video. So let's do it. Feel free to pipe up if you have any. Is it just a small section from 1 minute 7? 10th.
Yes, it's 107 until the end.
You
I
cannot
put the
say
end
that
there
he
as
was
well.
an irrational man being in that position. And I think this idea can be extended to many other things, to some of the most recent arguments for the existence of God. I think what they call it, the view about
While he figures out what the hell he's saying, who's the guy talking? Is it Antony Flew
That's
talking?
Anthony Flew.
Okay.
That's Anthony Flew.
physical constant, yes.
Yeah.
The people who already believe in God, I think they are quite rational in thinking that this is a confirmation, and ditto with the Big Bang theory. But I don't think, and this I think will become clearly with the fine-tuning argument, thanks for the reminder, with the case of that, because if the main purpose of the God in creating the whole universe was to have human beings, as would appear from the book of Genesis, in which...
Or is this guy in opposition? What side of the argument does Antony Flew sit on?
Well, he's the atheist. He's in opposition of the origin of Genesis and the veracity of it. And what he's saying here is interesting, because this is what we're trying to fight. The so-called church, whoever you want to ascribe that to, say, oh, the Big Bang? Yeah, God's responsible for Big Bang. And so Anthony Flew is saying, how in the world can you have the Genesis story and at the same time say the Big Bang is from God? And he says ditto on that theory. So he's about to make a case against it.
Gotcha.
Which the God is not apparently a sustaining but only an initiating cause, and therefore his creatures are reasonably free human beings. If his purpose of that, he would surely have created the universe as all the scientists of the Middle Ages believed he had, as the center of the universe. You know, as the view that was overthrown by the scientific work of Copernicus.
So that's the key. If it's God and it's all the Middle Ages and all the people from the beginning give credit to God that Earth is the center of the universe, then why did Copernicus, through the scientific means, overthrow it? So here we go.
Overthrow it. He postulated a system at the behest of the church out of necessity for better predictive capabilities. But to describe what Copernicus did as overthrowing geocentrism, it's like, what is geocentrism? A way of understanding the way the stars move? It's just a different way of understanding this. But this whole notion that Copernicus somehow dictates the world that we live in is respun to Copernicus discovered how we're moving around the sun. No.
But the idea...
I know, but hang on. But you see, it's being twisted to where this is, again, we're back into the usage of the word science, because he brought it in. So science all of a sudden is veracity no matter what, right? So, but it, like you just said, he didn't do that. So the Bible is geocentric and heliocentrism is sun-centric. So then that means the Bible is wrong. and science has proven the Bible is wrong, so how can we trust it? This is where he's going.
That the creator of the universe would plan the universe so the eventual emergence of Earth and human beings was the product of an extraordinarily unlikely coincidence of the physical constants, all of which he presumably formed as the creator of the universe. It seems
It's so odd when I hear positions like this. Obviously, I don't necessarily have too many horses in this race. However, when you hear your opponent essentially paraphrasing one of your own arguments, but in the affirmative for atheism, you're like, hold on a second. To say, well, for God to have, and then put all of our positions for how nonsensical the Big Bang is, but to say, but that's how nonsense it would be for God. You're like, hold on, all you've done is taken every single objection that we could ever take against the Big Bang, but ascribe all of those nonsensical realizations to God. Like, oh, wow, we have that. People throw our own arguments back at us like it's somehow a victory for them. All you're doing is undoing Lemaitre's Big Bang and Copernicus's sun-centric system that he invented.
Yeah,
Seems
it's
to
more
me-
confessional, but hold on, it's confessional debating again.
Yeah, confessional debating. Yeah, you coined that phrase. Yes, that's exactly right.
It's positively preposterous to think of this as a positive reason for unbelievers to believe that God created the universe.
And that's him paraphrasing. How did you call it again, Arwin? Confessional debating. Let's just hear him spin the coin twice to flip it back into the positive of atheism for unbelievers. Let's just paraphrase that.
Positively preposterous to think of this as a positive reason for unbelievers to believe that God created the universe.
Well, what a convoluted gaggle screw to get back to. Yeah, this means that heliocentric assertions are wrong. But if you ascribe those wrong assertions to God...
But I think it's reasonable enough for the people who believe that already to say,
Oh, I see. So if you already believe in Lemaitre's Big Bang and Copernicus's sun-centric system that he used to better describe the movement of the heavens, well, then it's perfectly acceptable. It's not preposterous at all. It's only preposterous to ascribe it to a god. I see. No, it's men and their ideas that you're describing as preposterous or otherwise, as opposed to God's handiwork. That is not what you're describing. Copernicus and his descriptions are not God's handiwork. Oh, far from it. Oh, no. Lemaitre and his Big Bang? You think that's God's handiwork? No, these are mere mortal men's descriptions. Best guesses. After having a little look at God's handiwork. It's absolutely pathetic when you break it down. But you think the weaselly, wankery shiteness that they've come up with as mere mortals can then be described as being ascribable to God in the negative for how crap it is, and then say, oh, but it's okay if you already believe that crap. If you already know that's the way the world is. Wow, what beautiful logic. 10th, I'm enjoying this a lot more than I expected.
say, God,
Oh dear, what's happened there?
this is confirmation. You show that he planned it all in this extremely subtle way, and he made all the physical constants combined in this way so that it would happen like that. And I think
It would be wonderful.
So he's saying the nonsensical, illogical formation of life in the heliocentric Big Bang-based Copernican world is so illogical and nonsensical. It's so low in probability to even occur in the first place that it would be absurd for God to have done that. That's his argument. You're like, okay, well, let's just lob off the if God did that and take all of the nonsensical, highly likely reasons for your existence in the world and life formation and say, well, that makes them equally just as absurd by the same standard. What they would then do is say, no, because there's a very small probability it will happen over a given period of time that's long enough, it will. That's their argument in response. But in the negative, when it's extremely unlikely to be the reason, and therefore, why would God have it happen that way? That's somehow a good argument. I wish I could remember Arwen's phraseology. It's such a good turn of phrase. Confessional
he said it right.
debating.
Yeah, confessional debating. He seems very triggered, by the way. Like he's almost moving like I am when I go rage win.
No, he's actually very excited because he's thinking he's making the point. By the way, you reached the end of that first video.
Good video. I enjoyed that immensely. Right, what's the timestamp on the second one?
It's the whole video. It's a short video as well.
Professor Antony Flew of England and Reading University is the world's foremost academic atheist over the last 50 years and the author of more than 30 books. His first debate with former atheist-turned-Christian C.S. Lewis in 1950 in Oxford, England.
Did anybody else know that about C.S. Lewis? Atheist turned Christian. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Was the first time.
Don't get me wrong about the stories, Neil. That's not what I'm saying. I just didn't know that was a factual statement about him. You don't know if you don't know, right?
He advanced his argument for atheism. He later wrote a paper titled Theology and Falsification. The paper became the most widely reprinted philosophical publication of the last half-century.
So useful, isn't he, C.S. Lewis? So many examples.
And a key foundation for atheists and agnostics who advanced materialist evolutionism. Flew's main theses were...
That was a reference to Anthony Flew publishing papers, not C.S. Lewis.
No, it wasn't. I was just making a note out of nothingness in regards to C.S. Lewis in general, just because we talk about his books all the time. Or we've got loads of catchphrases.
Right, gotcha.
Were that the universe is eternal. It has always existed and always will, that life is a random process, the result or accidental product of chemical interactions. And third, the existence of God is a self-contradiction, and evil is not compatible with the existence of God.
Sorry, did you want to unpack those? No, clearly not.
No,
That
I
is to say,
think that's the summary is saying how they use these arguments against the existence of God. So just let it play on. You're going to see where
we start and stop with the universe itself, with the everyday world of common sense and common experience, and with those hidden mechanisms of that world which are progressively revealed by the advance of science.
But now it is the advancement of science itself that has changed the mind of Flew and some scientists.
Like, what? Science doesn't change anybody's mind about anything. It establishes empirically causes of effects. So to have the inference that somehow you're going to have people changing their mind already tells me that this is working in a realm where the skids have already been greased for science changing its mind, having changes of hearts, changing the stories. Because in reality, if you're talking about science, you're just talking about an empirical outcome that's been validated through systematic experimentation after formulation of a hypothesis, after looking at something and going, I wonder why that happens. And then finding out why with an experiment. So that is not what they're talking about when they talk in this manner. They're talking about the greasing of the skids of pseudoscience already.
This is why I thought you'd like this video, the two together, especially this part, because you have already stated so many times that they steal the valor of science and they use it for everything. So here's Anthony Flew trusting that it was science that proved the Copernican model. And so he remained an atheist based on this so-called science. And then all of a sudden he sees science prove DNA and he says, wait a minute, that changes the previous science that made me think I was an atheist.
At a recent summit at New York University, Flew changed his position and now believes in God as the creator of the universe.
It is all a matter of the enormous complexity by which the results are achieved, which look to me like the work of intelligence.
Flew discussed the points with...
Wow. First sip of your cup from the cup of natural science will make you an atheist. But at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you. Werner Heisenberg.
Professor Gerald Schroeder, who was with the Weizmann Institute of Jerusalem and MIT, and Professor John Haldane of the University of St. Andrews. Flew turns to various discoveries of science to prove his point. From the fossil records showing the sudden appearance of a fully developed life to the emergence of visual consciousness across the animal kingdom.
What? I love these baseless assertions.
To the basic need for reproduction. But it is the manifestation of life written in DNA and the transcription of DNA to RNA and RNA into protein and the subsequent process of protein folding that makes the best case for flu.
Shorthand for what we were discussing yesterday with Nathan from Discord. Information.
What I think that the DNA material has done has shown by its almost unbelievable complexity.
What, that would be functional sequence specified complexity?
Of the arrangements which lead to produce this being, that intelligence must have been involved in getting these extraordinarily diverse elements to work together.
Loosely translated, there is no chance that this could have come to pass through chance and happenstance. Nature did not create this. There is a God.
Sorry, growing that. But without a designer, that's not going to happen. Complex systems like that don't assemble themselves. It contradicts entropy.
No, indeed. So it's the sandcastle example from Quantum Eraser, where if you're sat at the beach and you watch the tide roll in, the storms roll in, you're there for a very long period of time. Just to assert that out of nothing came life in the primordial soup that they describe is akin, on a much more simplistic level, to you sitting around long enough for a fully plumbed and electrically wired sandcastle to wash up with one of the waves. So this is QE's description of functional sequence specified complexity. If you want to check out one of QE's, they're probably in his God presentations, scientific evidence of God, probably. Nevertheless, that's what he was just talking about, very specifically. In his example, it's RNA, DNA, the information contained therein, and the discovery of is God at the bottom of the glass. There's no other way of describing it. When he described the intelligence, yeah, he's talking about the intelligence of an external entity in the ontological primitives. He's talking about the creation of the world.
As for the battle between evolution versus creation,
it just lost.
In the classrooms, it seems it may never end.
No, it just lost. You're having a laugh. The end of the discussion. You've got a first law of thermodynamics violation. That would be Lemaitre, who came up with the story. Oh, well, you might believe it already. According to the last video, where it's more recent than this, but there we go. The guy seems to like to contradict himself, and that's obviously why we're covering this video in this order. Anyway, it just lost. You don't have first law of thermodynamics violations inducing functional sequence specified complexity. Now, you've only got to see it with your own eyes, in this case, for Antony flu, in the case of RNA. Once you see that, you can't unsee it. That's it. It's the end. The ontological primitives have been answered. He just answered them in terms of the intelligence required.
But it may be explained best by re-quoting Flu.
Which looked to me like the work of intelligence.
Boom! Yeah, you damn Skippy.
What were some of the factors that prompted you to, in recent years, reconsider atheism and to come to the conclusion that that there is a intelligence?
It's been
Why do people hesitate to say God? Because it scares them. So he knows what's being talked about. The interviewer hesitated and then used the interviewee's words rather than the word of God. It scares the crap out of people.
entirely these, I suppose, biological discoverers.
Functional sequence specified complexity.
And discoveries about the chemistry.
So
these things.
The complexity and...
Yeah, the integrated complexity argument.
Now, when you talk about the integrated complexity,
Yeah.
is it the unlikelihood of that developing naturalistically?
What's going on with the camera? You're asking me the most profound, fundamental questions about the world. I mean, again, like yesterday. And what's the cameraman doing? I need to get a better angle. Just leave the camera alone. Listen to what the guy's saying. My God. Is it me? Is it the same thing? Maybe it's not connected, but the guy shifting around with the camera is, to me, a metaphor for someone shifting uncomfortably in their seat.
The first complex integrated biological system, is that where the problem you saw?
Well, yes, because after all, there is a problem about even, well, of physical nature. There's it's if the integrated complexity of the physical world is a good reason, as Einstein clearly thought it was, of believing that there was an intelligence behind it, then this argument applies a fortiori with the inordinately greater.
There's some Latin I don't know. A fortiori. What does that mean? Anybody good at Latin? No. Maybe someone will let me know in the chat. It's Paula in the chat. She knows our Latin far better than I do. The new one on me. Anyone ever heard that saying? That phraseology? Want to hear it again?
No.
It's like silk, wasn't it? Let's hear it again.
Integrated intelligence behind it, then this argument applies a fortiori with the inordinately greater integrated complexity of the living world. It seems.
Yeah,
sounds like
correct.
Something moving forward would be more complex than what started it. Something like that.
Well, he's got much better language than I, but he's describing the sandcastle, isn't he? In terms of the complexity, it's akin to a sandcastle washing up, as per my example from Quantum Eraser earlier. That's what he's saying. He's saying, like, this is orders of magnitude more complex. The way that this poofing itself into existence, there's just no chance. He's just got much better language than I.
Seems to me this is just obvious that that argument is much stronger now.
And this was one of the factors that led you to conclude there must be an intelligence.
Yeah. It was accepting.
It is inevitable.
Einstein, who after all was the person who's qualified to judge, and seeing that a fortiori this applied, where of course Einstein didn't have any authority at all and wasn't inclined reasonably enough to talk about it.
Professor Antony.
Very good. Thank you, 10th.
I got your a fortiori coming.
You know what it means?
Yeah, I'm posting it right now.
Oh, okay. Well, while you're doing that, I'll shout out Unitox Femo. Sasha, it says, I don't know what to write. Because of that, I will point Genesis 1969. What? NASA said to be vacuum and be vacuum. Okay, I kind of get where you're going with the gag, Sasha. You're kind of making it seem like that's a Bible verse. I've completely butchered the humour, though, haven't I? Thank you for the super chat, though. Really appreciate it.
All right, it's posted to Master B, a fortiori.
You read it?
Sure. Argumentum a fortiori. Literally, argument from the stronger, brackets reason, is a form of argumentation that draws upon existing confidence in a proposition to argue in favor of a second proposition that is held to be implicit in and even more certain than the first.
AKA the ontological primitives. Excellent. That's a new one on me.
That's a good word. I like it
I
already.
like it too. I love a bit of Latin.
But so my comments on this is seeing it from a different angle, obviously, but there are many viewpoints that would be correct just as well that someone else could make. I go back to the first debate when he was an atheist before his DNA finding changed his mind about a creator. Like, didn't he know about the first law of thermodynamics then? And if he did, how come he didn't use that a fortiori? How come he didn't use the, nature can create itself? First law of thermodynamics says that, so there must be an outside influence. And since we're intelligent and we can't be lesser than where we came from, that means where we came from must have intelligence. So he didn't go there when he was an atheist. He needed something else that what he deemed as science would prove that. So, of course, DNA was that trigger for him, which I'm happy it was. So, but he was referencing Copernican model as science, but then later he used DNA as science. So two different usages of science. And we know how we look at science here versus how the world just uses the word. But that argument he made in the first video is that Christians who believe the Genesis record, that God created everything, but then when science proved we were heliocentric, which was opposite of geocentric Genesis record, then the Christian church just said, well, that too. Okay, so God made that too and jumped on that bandwagon, which is not true of all Christians, but some. And then he says, you can't have that. You can't all of a sudden say it's this, and then science proves it's heliocentric, and then jump and say God did all that too. They're opposites. That was the implication he was making. But then he said that other part that you caught, which is, well, if you've already got your mind set up, then you make allowances for it, okay? Which you did. You caught that perfect, by the way, Nathan. Okay, so, and then you said, oh, you mean like evolution, Big Bang, etc. Okay, but then when he goes on, and I'll be done here. Then when he goes on to where he made a change, he references the word science again. And this time science said there is a creator, whereas before it said there was heliocentrism. So he doesn't know the word science, he doesn't know the word thermodynamics, but something happened in his mind that finally said, you know what? There's just too much going on for this to be a Big Bang, which I'm happy for him.
Okay, so there's a link going by to Max Bauer, which is the channel this has come from in this instance. So, as always, please let Max know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and that we responded to this video that he has presumably not produced, but as in this instance published. So please let that particular videographer, Max Bauer in this regard, know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Again, I will reiterate the idea being that were any of these videographers that we've covered today or previously to respond, we would hope that they would put a link to our video to help us in the algorithm where YouTube offers zero algorithmic love. So, offer them some algorithmic love with comments and likes and all that good stuff that promotes Max in this instance in the algorithm, and hopefully we would receive the same in return. So let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So yeah, good, always good choices, 10th, but got to keep you frosty, got to make sure you're not second guessing yourself before I do.
Well, I'd like for you to finish out the live show with the proper understanding of the usage of the word science and the scientific method.
Well, to use the word science in the context that we deal with, because obviously Flat Earth debate is specifically dealing with the nature of the world. So we're talking specifically about natural science. And all natural science does as a method is establish the cause of an effect. It's a process to elucidate cause. Well, cause of something that you've observed in nature. That would be to say you look at something happening and go, why did that happen? Well, to ask why it happened and then suppose a cause is to formulate half of a hypothesis. That would be a scientific prediction. The half being labelled an alternative hypothesis. If my supposed cause, then the effect I observed. Now that goes alongside something called a null hypothesis to have a full scientific prediction, also known as just a hypothesis. And that would be to say, if my supposed cause, then I won't induce the effect I'm studying and attempting to induce. So when you vary and manipulate that which you suppose causes the effect you're observing in nature, it will either confirm your alternative, that is to say, cause the effect, tick, ruling out the null, or confirm the null. Tick, ruling out the alternative. In either event, something's getting proven at the end of the process, and therefore has the ability to ascribe within the method an empirical outcome. The elucidation that it didn't cause it is still available to you empirically if you vary something and it doesn't cause the effect you're studying. Now, the genius obviously lies in the confirmation of the alternative. That is to say, you know what caused the effect you're studying, because then you can advance humanity and society with your scientific empiricism. Now, unfortunately, much of what we discuss on this show has been labelled as science by our opponents. Why? Because that empirical method described by me a moment ago is useful if you don't have empiricism. You can just say you've got science, and people prick their ears up, and having been taught it in high school, automatically know that it's proving something when you give your science for your hair shampoo. So there we go. That's the real method of science. Anything outside of that method, claimed to be science, also has a description that you can define, and that would be pseudoscience, a claim of science that has not been through the scientific method. Most of what we deal with isn't science, it's pseudoscience, because it hasn't adhered to the cause and effect reasoning laid down through a hypothesis actualization. That's an experiment where you vary your presumed cause and see if it causes the effect or not. Most of what we deal with hasn't been through that process. There we go. Hope that was what you were... Is that what you were hoping for?
Yeah, but I want to offer something else. I have to find it. I have video of a Christian evangelist, apologetic, even that, on a university campus when a student comes up and says, "Do you believe?" Now, the student is not a Christian, and he's addressing the Christian apologetic guy. "Do you believe the universe is 13 billion years old?" And the answer that I remember, which I'll have to get the exact wording, is, "Well, of course, science proved that already. I accept that," or something to that effect. This Christian apologist said, and I'm like gagging. I'm saying, "You gotta be kidding me! You're going to compromise on a university campus just so you can reach that student for the gospel? Why not just share the truth of the Bible and have the opposition of what the Word of God says to what this hijacking of science has said, aging the universe?" So to me, this is a sad point when Christians compromise. And this is this thing that this first video of Antony Flew was addressing. How can Christians all of a sudden change from geocentric to this point of view, as if God was saying one thing then, and now it's okay to say all this was designed by him at that point, Big Bang. But then later, Flew realizes, no Big Bang, no accident. There is a creator. So this is my fight. And I know there's other Christians like me who make this their fight, which is to say, don't compromise with faulty science as if they have a leg to stand on. So that's why I love your show.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, all that good stuff. And another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!